And I have been told by no less than some of the great reporters from the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Sun Times, the Atlanta Constitution. I'm right up there with the best of them, dude.
I hear that.
I have been told I suck by a lot of people who think they know what sucking really is. So yeah.
Well, there's something about print journalists that and I grew up loving newspapers. I used to I was a delivery boy, newspaper delivery boy for the old Des Moines Tribune, an afternoon paper. You're old enough to remember when, yes, papers were delivered in the afternoon and
correct.
in the morning.
That's correct.
I used to, and my parents encouraged. Are you there, Sam? You all right?
Oh, yes. I'm here.
Our parents, to their considerable credit, encouraged us to read the newspaper, to be literate people, and then not only that, the most important thing, to think about what we just read.
Right.
And so here I am, Sam. Anyway, you're gonna know that. I mean, you're gonna know where I'm going with this right away. This is a tale of two Joe Bidens, and I'm gonna play a CNN clip from Joe Biden's inaugural speech.
Okay.
Extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat.
He's going to defeat us, Sam, even though we're none of those things.
To restore the soul and secure the future of America requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy. Unity.
Okay, that's Joe on Inauguration Day. This is Joe in Atlanta just a few days ago.
Overshadows justice over injustice. I know where I stand. I will not yield. I will not flinch. I will defend the right to vote, our democracy against all enemies, foreign and, yes, domestic. And the question is, where will the institution of the United States Senate stand? Every senator, Democrat, Republican, and Independent, will have to declare where they stand, not just for the moment, but for the ages. Will you stand against voter suppression? Yes or no? That's the question they'll answer. Will you stand against election subversion? Yes or no? Will you stand for democracy? Yes or no? There's one thing every senator, every American should remember. History has never been kind to those who've sided with voter suppression over voters' rights. And it'll even be less kind for those who side with election subversion. So I ask every elected official in America, how do you want to be remembered? At consequential moments in history, they present a choice. Do you want to be on the side of Dr. King or George Wallace? Do you want to be on the side of John Lewis or Bull Connor? Do you want to be on the side of Abraham Lincoln or Jefferson Davis?
God, that is so offensive. First, he comes out and refers to conservatives. He wasn't just talking about some small minority. He was talking about conservatives in general. By the way, that last piece was by CNBC. He declares that yes, that everybody, I guess, who isn't him is some sort of redneck or white supremacist or just all kinds of terrible things.
But he has it. But he has all of it is based on a false premise and a false choice.
That you're being very kind, Sam. I hate to interrupt you, and I'm not going to again. But I think it's not a false premise. I think it's a flat out lie. Well, you're being kind. I mean,
yes, I am, because it is a presentation of fact, as they would say in a trial. It's a presentation of facts, not an evidence. There is no. The issue is, why has this become such an important topic? And the reason I think that the Democrats or Biden and the administration are pushing so hard for this ridiculous unconstitutional bill that is that they want to have out there, which by the way has in it.
Uh-oh. Well, we lost Sam, but we'll get him back, I promise you. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Yeah, I'm going to bring up to Sam. Certainly that what is really driving Joe Biden is fear of losing any more of the black vote. Democrats cannot get elected in this country to major office in big states without the black vote. They are the single group of voters that votes in a block. They've gone as high as 96, 97% for the Democratic Party in the past, and that can't change. Recently, 80% of black voters have voted for the Democratic Party. If they lose any more black voters and Hispanic voters, and by the way, Hispanic voters are leaving the Democratic Party quicker than than black voters. But the main point is that if he doesn't get this done, if he doesn't get this voting rights thing done, making it easier for people, I don't know, to vote by mail, and that can be fraught, of course, with corruption and all sorts of things. If he can't get this done, the Democratic Party may be finished. I mean, there may be staggering losses in the next election. It is predicted that there will be staggering losses anyway, but they could be devastating if Biden doesn't deliver on anything. And of course, he's not a transformational president. He thinks he is. He thinks he got a mandate. Who wanted Joe Biden to be president? Nobody. They had to come up with some alternative to end the nightmare of Donald Trump, to end the crazy. To end the crazy of Donald Trump? Did you see what happened in Afghanistan? Oh, yeah, I had to do that because of Donald Trump. He spent the entire last year blaming everything on Donald Trump. Oh, yes, we need to restore the soul of America, and on and on and on. But the fact remains that Afghanistan was about as crazy as it gets. Sam Clovis rejoins us. Sam, I was just saying that, and I got this from a piece by the National Review political writer Mark Thiessen in today's Messenger. The reason Biden is pushing so hard is he's losing the black vote and Hispanic vote. The Democratic Party has seen significant reductions, and they cannot lose the black vote, especially. They may be able to stand some Hispanics. And by the way, Hispanics are a very industrious group. They're always starting businesses somewhere. But if they lose the black vote, they'll never really lose it. But it's at 80% now, and they can't have it at 80%. They'll get washed out of both houses of Congress next time around, and it will not bode well for the presidential election in 2024.
Well, I don't know who they're going to get to run in 2024, because I think Joe Biden is, I'm not sure he's going to finish his term. And the issue that we then have is Kamala Harris, who is incredibly unpopular, Nancy Pelosi, incredibly unpopular, Hillary Clinton.
Bring Hillary back. There we go.
They're the most divisive force in America. And so who's on their bench? Are they going to trot out Mark Warner from Virginia? Are they going to put out Pete Buttigieg or one of the cabinet secretaries? Is there some Democrat governor like Whitmer from Wisconsin?
Michigan, isn't it?
Michigan, excuse me. Is she Michigan? She's Michigan.
Gretchen Whitmer, I think she is Michigan.
Gretchen Whitmer is Michigan, yeah. And or are we going to find, are they going to try to find some legacy like Bob Casey or somebody like that from Pennsylvania? So you have this, that they don't really have anything to run on. The problem is that the Republicans, if they win the Congress and pick up seats in this, if they win the House and then pick up seats in the Senate, what are they going to do? I mean, right now, what you see out of the leadership from McConnell and McCarthy are the fact, well, by God, we're going to get even. Well, that's not, one of the great lines I heard at one time when I was a kid was, if you're trying to get even, you can't get ahead. So what you really need to do is figure out, what are you going to do for America? I am sick and tired of politicians on both sides of the aisle who simply get out there and give us the platitudes to get elected and then go right back to the same form. And because they think that once they're elected, they can get away with it because we can't do anything to them.
That's
and
right.
in the Senate, we really can't do anything to them for 6 years.
That's right.
Now, on this voting rights bill, now the Republicans will vote against it because it's a bad idea. There'll be at least 2 Democrats who will vote against it because it's a really bad idea. So what we end up with is it's not going to pass. At least we hope it doesn't pass. But I will tell you this. If it did pass, the Republican Party would not lift a finger to overturn it. I'll guarantee you they would not lift a finger to overturn it because they would figure out how to cheat the same as the Democrats would, and we turn into a banana republic. That is exactly, I absolutely have no faith in the Republican Party to do what's right.
I don't either. Republicans here in Iowa, of course, are crazy over Terry Branstad. You know, he's saved him a couple of times. He's saved him from the depths of 12 years of Democratic rule. And he still is the longest serving governor in the country. And he was in here, a month or 2 ago, and reminded me that he had never lost an election. However, Terry Branstad didn't do a single thing on cultural issues, which was Donald Trump's main issue, by the way.
Right.
And we can't have another Republican like that. God bless Governor Branstad. He's a likable man, but go in peace, Governor or Ambassador, or however you want to be addressed as. We don't need any more Republicans like that. If Joe Biden tells us that we're in a battle for the soul of America, I'll tell you that's the one thing I agree with him on. We are, and he's on the wrong side. He's
Absolutely.
A silly old man who's flailing around as president of the United States, and he's an embarrassment. He wants to talk about the crazy of the Trump years. Are you serious, man? Your crazy started with Afghanistan, and it has only gotten worse. Afghanistan was a disgrace, and of course, it was Trump's fault. It's just
how do you look at a person like that and take them seriously after 50 years in government,
50.
and they haven't moved the ball 1 inch on the field, not 1 inch. In fact, they've lost ground. And so how do you take them seriously? How do you give any credibility whatsoever to an individual like that? And the worst part of it is that he is in a, you have to be empathetic to him in a certain amount of area because the guy is, I don't think he's there. I don't think he's all there. I think he has the capability of going out there and reading off a teleprompter, but I think that's about it.
Yeah.
I don't think he even understands what he's saying. I really don't.
I don't know. You and I aren't spring chickens, by the way, Sam, but Biden is some years older than us. And
only a little.
Well, he is obviously failing. You and I retain most of our mental acuity, at least in my opinion. Well, Biden, even with the teleprompter, seems confused. Confused.
And I don't take any pleasure in bringing that up.
No, I don't either.
I think it is, he is the president of the United States. And whether you like him or not, you have to revere the office that is there because this is where it is. And that he is the president. Like him or not, he is the president. And what you feel bad about is for the office of president to be represented as such. And the thing that really troubles me is who is behind the scenes pulling the strings and making the decisions, because it's clearly not Joe Biden.
Oh, God, no. I don't know. Uh, he pays a lot of attention to the squad and to the House Democratic Caucus. There's 50 members over there, and contain. They're a bunch of lunatics. I mean, they don't have any idea what made this country great, and they're not interested in what made this country great. That's the sad thing. They see the United States of America as hostile oppressors and exploiters, and on and on and on. And our history is terrible. That's how they see our country. And those are 50 of those people in the House right now. Unless
Right.
we cut the state of California off at the line of Nevada and Arizona and let it drift into the sea, we're going to have to put up with these people for a while. But it is not a good idea to have, well, an impaired old man so beholden to these people. It's just not.
Right.
Nothing is in his history, so he has to be guided in that way somehow.
Well, I worry that we have whatever it is, that this extreme far left influence on the president, because even Bill Clinton triangulated. He and and Dick Morris and Hillary and all of that bunch. They all figured out ways to, and their term was triangulation. They figured out where all the lines crossed, and then that's where they put their position, is in that area. So it made Bill Clinton look like a centrist, even though he may have been to the left. But he was able to govern. Then you have a Barack Obama, who is probably, I think, one of the most cynical politicians ever to hold the office, at least in my lifetime, to hold the office of president, and an extremist, a far left extremist of the highest order. And he was there that started this country down that path because of the cult of personality. And I think that now we went through 4 years of Donald Trump trying to get the train back on the tracks, and now we have Joe Biden, who is blowing up every bridge along the way, so that every time the train gets to a gully, it goes off the tracks. And you can look at Afghanistan, inflation, the border, any issue that this country is facing, and you can and Joe Biden's fingerprints are all over it.
I'm glad you brought this up. There's a couple of things. First of all, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have an unreal desire for power. When Bill Clinton was elected governor, and governors at that time in Arkansas served 2-year terms, he was his true self. He came out with a lot of liberal spending policies and social programs. Well, business in Arkansas put together a coalition of groups and rounded up some money and got a candidate of their own who beat Clinton. When Clinton lost the governorship, he cried. I'm talking too long here, Sam. We got to go to the news. Please give us a call back in about 9 minutes, will you please?
I sure will.
Thank you, sir. This is KVFD in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Rollout. This as an Omicron-driven surge continues. A month after the holiday travel rush spurred long lines for testing, the free test kits are limited to 4 per household. An update from the man in charge of putting White House infrastructure
And it's still, even though there's a lot of women in the military, it's still a pretty macho culture. It has to be. It has to be. One day, these men and women may have to go kill somebody in our name. And that's just that. That's real. That's realville. That's as real as it gets. And the Democratic Party, if you check their ranks, they don't have anybody like that anymore. They don't have anybody like that. They got Joe Biden, and what was he doing during the 60s? Probably hanging out with a rat pack in Vegas and going, "Hey, baby, come here. Hey, honey, bring me another drink. Where my, you look good in that dress tonight." That was Joe Biden and his boys back in the day. I was a kid then, and even then I didn't feel it was right and fair and kind of ugly for them to talk to women that way. I'm not saying I'm some genetic feminist, but even then I thought it was wrong, flat out wrong, morally and intellectually, to treat women as if they were servants. And that's the way Biden grew up, by the way. That's the way Biden grew up, Biden and his boys. I think that's sometimes why he has trouble. Other than that, he's the poor man. Yeah, I'm getting there myself. My memory is just terrible anymore. And I can't imagine what Joe Biden's, 79? Is he 79 now? 78 or not? Can't imagine what that's like at his age to try to be president of the United States and make any sense of it. I mean, his countenance is white. I mean, he looks opaque with a hint of transparency, like he's fading away or something. He looks like a black and white movie, or a black and white movie figure in a color movie. What was that great Woody Allen movie where the black and white characters came out of the movie screen? Was that The Purple Rose in Cairo? I think it was. If you know, give me a call at 515-955-1400. By the way, we've got StreamYard going again, so if you want to check out video and audio of this program, just go to my Facebook page, which is at Michael Devine, or the radio station Facebook page, which is at AM 1400 KVFD, or Alpha Media website, or on the Alpha Media website, and you'll catch video of this program. You'll really want to tune in right around 4 o'clock, as I have an in-person guest. Yes, David Furyk, city manager. So rock and roll. I don't think Jim Kirsten is going to call. If he would have, this is the question I would have asked him. If there is any fight in the Republican Party when it comes to social and moral issues. They're pretty adamant that they gave us gun rights. I suppose he's talking to guys like me, essentially working class white guys, and women, by the way. Women can shoot very well now. They've been trained by their fathers, guys my age, who know what's on young men's minds because we were once young men. So yes, dear, this is how you shoot a pistol. And there may become, I hope, and God, the day never comes, but there may be a day when you have to do this, when you have to fire a pistol. And by the way, we have to have United States military people that can do that without hesitation. If you remember during the Civil War, and even in the Second World War, Korean War, and sometimes in the Vietnam War, there was a pitched battle if small arms fire was going on as far back as the Civil War. Especially in the Civil War, the men on both sides would fire in the air. They would fire in the air because there is a commandment that says, "Thou shalt not kill." They were afraid of repercussions in the next world. Especially the Southerners were Protestant because the Catholics understand the concept of a just war. Pastor David Grinberg, who was over at St. Olaf for quite a long time, a terrific guy and a very sharp guy. Really liked him. He's up in Algona the last I heard. Next time I go up there, I'll have to look him up. But he took great issue with the issue of just war, the Catholic issue of just war. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I haven't forgiven them yet for the pedophilia scandals. I haven't found it in my heart, but perhaps one day I will. I do go because it's the old religion, it's the old faith. When I go to Mass, it's very familiar to me. I grew up with the old Latin Mass. I wish we could have that somewhere, just for nostalgia's sake. But I don't see that day coming. I don't see that day coming. You do remember that there was a movement within the Catholic Church to keep Joe Biden, who is a practicing Catholic, at least he says he is a practicing Catholic, from receiving communion for a violation of the Church's teachings on practically everything. Most importantly, because of his prohibition, or his, I shouldn't say prohibition, that's the opposite, because of his strong support for abortion rights. The Catholic, I don't know if there would be an organized effort to prevent abortion if it weren't for the Catholic Church. I know there's Randall Terry in his group, but Randall Terry is a little bit off in the head, you know. And I know there's some Protestant groups who believe in the sanctity of life as well. But the Catholic Church is, again, in my estimation, there wouldn't be an anti-abortion movement if it wasn't for the Church's teachings on abortion and the unborn, that every life is sacred. So there was a movement in the Church, a strong one for a while, that sought to ban Joe Biden and other Catholic politicians who supported abortion from receiving communion, which I think is perfectly normal. If you're a Catholic, these are the teachings. You don't have to be a Catholic. You're not required to be a Catholic. Because you're a Catholic and you believe in abortion, you cannot petition the Church to change itself on your word or your group's word. That's not who the Catholic Church is, and I don't think it should be. Yes, I'm a Papist. At heart, I guess. I certainly look forward to, the people I went to, because of the pedophilia scandals starting in the late 80s in the Catholic Church, and the disgraceful conduct, especially of Cardinal Bernard Law in Boston. I didn't want to hear going to church in the Catholic Church at all. It's absolutely the things the church did to protect this one little creep, John Geoghegan, because he was a priest, are unforgivable. Geoghegan was killed in prison by a man who apparently had been approached by an adult seeking sex from him when he was 14 years old. That was a long time ago. I really think the man was a little bit off. Well, to kill two people as he did, you're not a normal person. And he got a hold of Geoghegan and killed him, which, well, I don't know what to say about it. Geoghegan was an evil man, but he didn't deserve to be beaten to death like that. I don't think. A humane execution would have been better. I do believe in the death penalty. But we'll see, as Sam Clovis and I were talking, if the Republican Party has any fight in them for an issue like the death penalty, for an issue like standing up to these people who tell us and demand that we believe it, and demand that they're going to teach our children and grandchildren that a biological male can be a woman. It's a lie. There is no scientific proof. Sociology is not an exact science. And you can get 10 sociologists in a room, and each of them will have a different opinion on an important topic, like gay rights or gay thinking or gay behavior. They'll all think differently. This is a fight that must be joined. We can't say, oh gosh, I don't have the time for this or whatever. When you have people putting books in your library and calling themselves professionals that show us in explicit detail homosexual acts, look up Long Boy. Look up Lawn Boy. That's my favorite. Portrays gays as victims of thugs who don't love the gay lifestyle. I mean, it's propaganda. It's not education, and this is who we're dealing with in areas around our state. I haven't heard anything like that in Fort Dodge. We have a terrific school board at Senior High in St. Edmund. However, it exists in the state and has to be addressed. And we cannot go to the Democratic Party, of course. Are we going to go to the Democratic Party for parents' rights? Are we going to go to the Democratic Party and say, hey, the teachers union, a pillar of your party, they're wrong on this issue? Can you stand up for parents and grandparents on this issue? What do you think they're going to do? Say, yeah? No. This is a bureaucrat education bureaucrat who seeks to tell you that they have the right and not you to set the moral tone for their children's lives, for your children's and grandchildren's lives. It's despicable and has to be fought. You can't sit on the sidelines on this one. It's 4 o'clock. David Furick is next. This is AM 1400 KBFD. Mike 1400. I'm at StreamYard on my Facebook page. My personal page is Michael Devine, and the radio station Facebook page, AM 1400 KVFD. And of course, Alpha Media website also carries this. This isn't very good shit. I gotta. It's not very good because you can't see my guest, who's David Furick. Hi, David. See, it's just
Hi, Mike.
Here. Let me try this.
I'm really here.
Yes, I know. Oh, whoa! I think you move over there to your left a little bit, David. I think we'll get see yourself there.
Yeah,
Get yourself a little bit more. Can you go a little bit more?
I can go.
Okay.
You want me sitting over in this seat again? You want me using this mic though?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Here. We'll go. No, I can't do that.
They want to see.
Okay.
You. They want to see you anyway.
No, yeah, sure they do. They've seen old men before. Old men wearing T-shirts.
Yeah.
So I thought there was a city council meeting last night that, even though we're only doing them every other week, and I thought, well, maybe because of the holidays they had to make one up. But you're telling me it was just a meeting,
Just a budget workshop. So
budget workshop. Those are fascinating, by the way.
yeah,
It's my compliments to all political.
Fascinating.
Oh God, I've checked them out at the county level. I've checked them out at the city level, state level. They're so boring.
Oh, okay.
But they're so totally necessary.
Yeah.
They're absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is the heartbeat of democracy. There is budget meetings.
Well, yeah. At some point, it all boils down to allocation of your resources. What
Right.
What are your priorities, and what are you going to do with them? And that's ultimately it is a decision on where you're gonna spend your money. So we do through the month of January, we meet every Monday to discuss. We have council meetings on 2nd and 4th, and then at 5 every Monday we're doing budget workshops. We chunk
Second
them
and
out.
fourth Monday.
2nd, 4th Monday, the council meetings, but every Monday in January. Now I say that, but I don't know for sure if we're going to have one on the 5th Monday. We have a 5th Monday in January, so I don't know yet whether we're going to have a budget workshop follow-up meeting there. We're about wrapped up. We have we did the airport and Parks, Recreation, Forestry. Actually, not really forestry since that's part of the road use tax, which we already did, but Parks and Recreation, we did that yesterday. We'll do a lot of the administrative budgets, the really exciting stuff, the administrative budgets on next week. But then also we should have a first draft of what our tax levy is going to be. So that's probably a pretty important one from that standpoint. The actual line items in the budgets next week are probably not as critical as what our tax levy looks like it's going to be, and then overall, how's our financial position look? And which I think heading off the question, I think our financial position is going to be, pretty good. It's a tougher year. And also, let me make sure everyone realizes we are now discussing budgets for the fiscal year that begins. We're talking June or July 1st, 2022. So we're discussing things over the fiscal year doesn't even start for almost 6 months and then runs the entire year. So so this is fiscal year 23 budgets is what we're working on.
23 separate budgets.
No, fiscal year 23. So we call it the fiscal year 23 budget. It goes from July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023.
Okay.
So we do have to work on them early. It's a state law. They have to be done by March. So we have to start them early.
Well, drum roll. Are the taxes going up this year?
No, I think our tax levy is going to go down.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I don't have the exact number, so I don't want to, kind of, get too far out in front and be wrong. But I expect our tax levy to go down some.
Yeah. Well, that's remarkable, really. I mean, we have spent a lot of money in the last 10 years. We had a couple of pitched battles about it, and that's the way it should be, really.
Yeah.
When we're talking about spending money, people should be involved and let our elected leaders know.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that the tax levy, and we're talking property taxes here,
property tax levy,
not going to go up.
And there's many elements into your own personal property tax bill, which is probably worth mentioning. So you have each taxing jurisdiction, and there are several larger ones and then several smaller ones that send out a tax levy, and then a rate is established from that, and that rate is a combination of the amount of money they need in the tax levy and the value of their taxing area. So
Right.
one of the things that's going on in the city of Fort Dodge, our tax value is increasing pretty decently. And then, I mean, our overall costs are going up some, but not too much. So we can see a change there in the rate coming down. Now, that doesn't mean that the other taxing entities that become part of your tax bill, I don't know what their rates are going to do. So they may change. So because the city of Fort Dodge says, okay, we're dropping our rate, whatever, a couple cents, 20 cents, 30 cents. And we can say, okay, this is what the impact of that will have on a, house at $100,000 value. That doesn't mean that the school district or the community college or the county might also be doing things different with their tax rate. I mean, it goes either way. Sometimes the city raises theirs, school district lowers theirs, and that effect is people don't notice a difference in tax rates. So there's a whole bunch of different components in there. It's not a real simple process, and a person's property value can change too, which can impact what their actual tax bill is.
Now they base that off the assessed value.
After
right?
assessed value.
Right.
Yeah.
Explain city taxes, sales taxes exactly.
Sales taxes.
Yeah, city sales taxes. And we do have a hotel motel tax.
We
of
do
course.
have that as well.
Most cities do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only sales tax that we have in Fort Dodge?
No, there's a tax on goods and services you buy that are
Okay.
taxable. So, if you go buy a t-shirt from a store, you're going to pay the sales tax, and 1 penny per dollar of that sale then comes to the city in the form of a local option sales tax. I'm going to get really exciting here. Instead, I should be more clear.
Something needs to be discussed.
It doesn't actually come directly to the city. What the state does is it goes to the state first.
Mm-hmm.
And they take all the sales tax that are generated in the county, in Webster County, and the state then reallocates that back to the municipalities in Webster County on a per capita basis. So it's an interesting formula they use here in Iowa. But yeah, so basically 1% of all sales the city will get back in some form or another.
Cars and
food,
boats, golf carts, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, food as well.
Is food taxed? I know restaurant food is taxed. I'm assuming groceries are taxed. I mean, I'm pretty sure they are. Yeah.
Well, some groceries are taxed, but the feds and the state didn't want to get into taxing food too much. That's kind of a bad thing to do from their perspective.
Yeah, but
to start making food more expensive for folks. Your brother there, Joe Biden, he hasn't figured it out yet, but I digress. I want to tax the air you breathe. Anyway, well, that's great information to have. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, again, if you have a question or comment for City Manager Furyk, 955-1400, 955-1400. He makes himself available here every Tuesday at this time. In the interest of transparency, is the mayor back or not?
Yes, he is.
All right, good. Don't know where he was. Okay, I knew where he was. But anyway, that's great information. What else was discussed at
the workshop? Well,
at the workshop,
really, it was the two budgets. It was the airport budget, and we talk about, what and their budget is a little bit complex because there's actually airport revenues. There's the airport, operational revenues, which are going up, which was good news because then the airport operational revenues have gone up more than expenses, so that the tax asking portion of the airport has gone down because the property tax, there is a property tax subsidy for the airport. So that's going down, and that's good. That's having the jet coming in and the employments is all really beneficial.
I saw a little something about that this morning. Yeah.
So that's exciting. Then we did the Parks Recreation budget, which is it's a big budget. I mean, I think
I saw that too.
Yeah. A lot of different entities, a lot of different little enterprises going on in there. A lot of different functions.
Is the park, the swimming pool, as I still call it. Isn't that the biggest one?
I think Lakeside's actually probably a little bit larger budget as far as dollars than Rosedale Rapids. the golf course. So one of the things we do with Parks and Rec is we look at three entities that are large operations for the Parks and Rec: Harlan Rogers baseball, or the baseball, softball, soccer fields, Lakeside, the golf course, and then Rosedale Rapids, the pool. And kind of look at them as an entity, allocate costs to them. It's just to see how they're doing. Lakeside's a little unique in how we show revenue and expenditures a little different, because our goal there is to not have Lakeside subsidized by the general fund, to have it be pretty much subsidy free. It doesn't.
Lakeside's kind of an unusual situation, isn't the
Yeah.
county? Doesn't the county get involved in Lakeside to an extent?
We pay them a little bit of rent depending on what net
Because it's
money
not
we
within
make.
the city limits.
It's not within the city limits, and it's on their property. So we don't own. The county owns title
County
to the
owns,
property,
right?
and we lease the property from them. So we pay them a little bit of rent depending on how we're doing financially. But the goal there with Lakeside is to have that not be a burden on the general fund from the standpoint of financially. There is a little bit of employee benefits levy that is paid for employees out there. Then we have, like you mentioned, Harlan Rogers, and that, that's a budget off the top of my head somewhere in the $300,000 range. And then a little bit larger is Rosedale Rapids Aquatic Center, and both of those do have a tax subsidy in them. I mean, there's a portion of the revenues generated at the facility do not pay for the entire cost of the facility, so there's some tax subsidy going to those two.
Yeah. Now those two, you mean Lakeside
And Rosedale.
and Rosedale, right?
And in general, Parks and Rec, the budget, it's a little bit higher this year, but it's about 1/3 tax subsidy and about 2/3 user fees and operational revenues. So everything you see, with the parks maintenance, those three facilities I mentioned, the Olson Park splash pad, and actually
The splash pad, I love that.
And then we actually
The
operate.
Great Satan took out my pool down there.
We operate
The
two
GS.
cemeteries now. That
That's
with all
right.
the-
We have the one out east on 20 across from Chichester.
Memorial Park Cemetery.
Memorial Park, is that what it's called? And what's the other one?
The other one's Oakland Cemetery.
Oakland. We subsidize Oakland?
Yeah, we have to subsidize. Oakland basically earns very limited revenue. It's a full cemetery for the most part.
But it's a Catholic Church cemetery.
No, that's Corpus Christi Cemetery right next door. So it looks like one cemetery. It's actually two.
It does.
One is the Catholic Church's cemetery, the northern part. The southern part, which is the hilly part,
Yeah.
is owned by the city. It's been owned by the city for decades. It's for the most part full. So, but we have maintenance costs. We have to mow it and weed eat and try to, maintain the grounds. The county pays us a little bit because of the veterans buried there. The county has a revenue source for help paying for veterans cemetery costs. But for the most part, it's a full cemetery. Now there might be plots that family members own that somebody may still be reserved for somebody who's living that'll go there. But primarily it's full. And then Memorial Park is one where what was it? Was it Memorial Day of 2020? Or was it,
we had to, that
or was it 2019?
Could have been 19.
Could even 19, where the owner of it was unable to keep up, and we had a bunch of volunteers come in and mow it that weekend, which was awesome.
Yeah, my wife's out there, and I went out there Memorial Day. I didn't like what I saw at all.
Yeah, so that led to the city.
Was he the owner of the place, or was he just contracted?
He's the owner.
He was the owner of that cemetery.
It was an owner operator, like just a one person operation there.
Wow.
And he got to a point where he couldn't do it anymore. And so we got some volunteers that came in and took it over, took over the maintenance for at least one mowing. And then the state took it in receivership, and then we took it over from them. They then handed it over to us, and now we're maintaining it. And it's an active cemetery. I mean, there are, there's space, there's burials.
Yeah. It is. So I'm certainly not a lawyer, obviously, but so a private owner owned that cemetery,
Yes.
and he was unable to do it anymore. So it was sent back to the state.
Yeah, the state has authority over
Really?
cemeteries to take them back in receivership. I don't think they can do it to municipal or county cemeteries, but if it's a private cemetery and whoever the ownership
Mhm.
fails to maintain it, fails to keep it up, they can take it.
The state can, but not
Yes.
the city.
No,
Or
but the
county.
city gets it.
But the city gets
Yes.
Is that
And it's-
always next in line?
it's-
Is that
well,
the process or
They will look for buyers if there is a buyer for a
Mhm.
cemetery. The unfortunate thing is by the time a cemetery gets to where the state's involved, there's probably it's not a good looking purchase for a private
yeah,
owner.
really?
So no, the state gets involved and takes it on receivership, and then the city gets it, and you really can't like turn it down.
Yeah, that's right.
It's part of in the code that, and I think counties get it if there's unincorporated areas where the cemetery is abandoned, that the counties end up having to take over maintenance for it.
Well, I wish the private property owners, and it's all said and
Mm.
done for now. And I go
Yeah.
out there now, and it's a very well cared
Yeah.
for and good looking cemetery. I just wish the previous owners, private owners, would have
Mhm.
kind of sent up a flag before Memorial Day
Yeah.
that I'm not getting this done.
Yeah.
Because we go out there Memorial Day, and I wasn't the only one out there. There were people going around, what's this?
I know it was that was an interesting time. We hear about it, we're hearing about it through social media, and then we're quickly figuring out, okay, where is the person who owns this and how do we get in touch with them? And then
You didn't even know for sure?
No, I mean, it
Oh,
really isn't
man.
something that's on our radar of having to deal with. And
Yeah.
so we're quickly trying to track that down, talking to the state, figuring out what to do, and then going from there. And of course, it's a big enough property that as a staff, we're not geared up to handle another 24 acres of mowing,
Yeah.
especially in May.
Is it that much?
Yeah.
Wow, I suppose it is.
Especially that time of year where the grass grows quick.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
we
it
were able
does.
to quickly get a contract in there, and a guy came in, a new company, and started taking care of the mowing. It's done pretty well. I'm glad to hear that that it passes.
Since then, yeah, it
passes
really has. The
together.
last couple of years, I've gone out there, and it's as the other cemeteries are, and
Yeah.
most other cemeteries, Catholic Church or whatever, they start taking care of their cemetery like a week before. I have relatives who are buried up in Algona, of course, in the Algona cemetery. There's a couple of different ones up there, and those are always a credit to their community up there.
Nice.
They've because that's an important time of remembrance. A lot of people go out.
Mhm.
I do. I'm one of them. A lot of people go out to remember relatives and friends, and nothing like going out there and see grass up over a tombstone to get you in the mood.
Yeah.
It was a bad deal, but again,
Yeah.
it's all over and done with, and I'm glad that I'm sure the previous owner wasn't doing anything that he thought was wrong necessarily. It was maybe incapable. I don't know.
Mhm.
It happens. So,
Yeah.
just kind of an interesting process that goes to the state, and then inevitably, just out of curiosity, so the state gets it. Can they put it up for bid? You were talking about another private owner could come and
They can, and we didn't. So the state had a term. The lawyer had a term. I'm not going to use probably the proper term. Simply put, we didn't object to getting it in receivership, meaning the city. Cities can be adversarial in the process and say, no, go find another private owner. I mean, it ultimately becomes a court process because you have property and value and assets, both land. There could be assets as far as different features in the cemetery that have yet to been sold. There's in the case of a lot of cemeteries, there's called there's a fund that's money supposed to be kept in, perpetual maintenance fund, and so that's an asset as well that the judge has to determine where it goes. But cities can object to taking it, and at that point the state will work on trying to find another private owner. In our case, knowing what the condition of the cemetery, basically what the financial condition was, we're not going to get it any better. No, it's an assumption. I take that.
Yeah,
we're not going
right.
to get better service by another private owner because it's just not you're going to you could get an absentee owner where, maintenance is not.
You could have some
kept
farmer
on.
buy the cemetery and say, I think I'll just plow up this 10 acres and put corn on it.
Well, yeah, maybe they could for the vacant stuff. But we felt it was in the best interest of the community
Yes, I
that
agree.
the city just take it over and make it part of our operations. We have experience with Oakland, so we figured we know what to do. We're not scaled up to take it on, but we'll get there. But we know what to do. So best interest, want it. Not only is it a place for like you or other people that have loved ones there and want it to want it to be nice place. It's also kind of right at the entry into our community, so we want it to show well for visitors or just people going by it.
All right, David Furick has been our city manager. David, this has been one of the most informative 20 minutes that we spent together, and I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, it was interesting. We kind of went down a few rabbit holes.
Yeah,
stuff,
that's gosh, I was very proud of the city for moving quickly to take over the old Memorial, what is now Memorial Park Cemetery. Maybe it was before, I don't know. But that was that tugs at the heartstrings a lot of people, and the city moved in and did the right thing. So that was a big credit to everybody over the city that was behind that and worked on that.
And we're going to continue to make it better.
Yeah, well, good. That's a good thing to know, and certainly the budget process. Again, that's the real heartbeat of democracy right there. But thank God we have people who are accountants and can deal with that sort of thing.
Yep.
Anyway. David Furick's been a guest. Thank you very much, David.
You're welcome, Mike.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFT.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
It's 4:31.
If you've been putting off getting your COVID-19 vaccine, there's never been a better time than
Now we have Jim Kirsten on the phone. How are you, Jim?
Real good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Boy, I really promoted your appearance in the 3 o'clock hour.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got called into a conference call I could not get out of, so I apologize.
Oh, it happens every now and then. It's part of the deal.
Yeah.
It's just part of the deal.
Well, thanks for talking me up. I hope it wasn't too flamboyant.
Oh, no. I just said that you were a well-known Republican, and we're probably keeping an eye on things for us down in Des Moines and words to that effect. I didn't say I didn't say you'd won any beauty contests or anything like that, Jim.
No. That's far from that.
I had Sam Clovis on today. You know Sam. And,
Oh, good man.
He always gets my conservative juices flowing, traditionally conservative juices and Catholic thing coming out of me. Sam and I discussed the Republican Party and their reluctance to push social issues or a cultural agenda much. And your old friend and a guy you used to work for, former ambassador and former governor, Terry Branstad, came up as an example of an effective Republican who didn't seem to have time for these sorts of issues. But myself and others, well, Sam, of course, but myself and others believe it's time for the Republican Party to become more engaged with issues like what's being taught in our schools, that sort of thing. What do you hear or feel down in the legislature this year around these sorts of issues? Is there a reluctance on the part of the Republican Party to do something about this?
No, I think there's going to be a debate, is what I'm understanding. But I also think Republicans remember that they always talk about local control.
Yes.
And I think what they're going to probably do is try to send a signal to the school boards to be more engaged with what is being taught in the classroom and also allowed in the libraries. But other than that, I don't know if they'll pass any law to put more dictate in there than that. But I think it's a debate yet to be seen. So I'll see how it unfolds.
Well, Zach,
I know there's strong feelings on both sides.
Oh yeah. Well, gosh, I had his name in my head. Jake. What's that?
Oh, Jake Chapman.
Chapman, yeah, he came out swinging on this, and Governor Reynolds has said that it's time to do something. Of course, I heard from another Republican legislator who was thinking of joining the battle that a senior Republican had come to him and said, "What do you want to get involved in this for? There's no money in it." Now that's old. Now that's old school Republican thinking. Robert Novak, I've said this many, many times on the air. I said it again today. Robert Novak, the great conservative columnist, said the Republican Party was put on earth to reduce taxes. That's their sole function.
Right.
And and I understand that. They're known as a business party, and what would we do without business? But I think the Republicans in the House and Senate will feel some pressure from their constituents to become involved with more than just words.
Yeah, and I think what I've been trying to stress to both my Democratic and Republican friends, there's room in Iowa to have significant discussions about tax reform, and get Iowa to a more competitive rate. But at the same time, keep in mind we have to fund our priorities. Education, of course, I'm selfish about community colleges because we're the ones helping train the workers that will fill the jobs that are sitting out there now unfilled. So it's just a matter of balance. And so I think, they have $2 billion in the bank that they can start using to buy down, I guess, the income tax rate to a flat rate at some point. But they also at the same time need to continue to invest in the priorities of education. And I think also with Representative Ann Meyer locally with mental health reform and criminal justice reform. So there's a lot of issues on the table, but I think there's room for all of them to have that discussion. And at the end of the day, I think hopefully common sense will prevail and we'll be able to fund our priorities, but also move to a really more competitive tax rate.
Well, we're going to get back to the tax rate here in just a minute, but I think there's going to be some pressure on Republican legislators to do things. It seems to have gotten out of hand in some school districts, not Fort Dodge, but certainly in Linn-Mar and in other areas around the state. Parents are just told, we're going to teach your kids these things and you can go home and shut up. I mean, that's just not the right way to handle it locally. I think you saw that blow up in Virginia with the governor's race out there. Exactly.
the governor's candidate, Democratic candidate, said it's no business that the parents decide what's being taught in the classroom. And that set that state upside down, and he ended up losing that race. So I think a lot of that has to come back again to the local control and make sure our local school boards are staying engaged. And I think luckily in Fort Dodge, in our region, we have really good active school boards. So luckily we don't have that problem, I don't think, in our area.
No, we don't. We have a great senior high has a great school board, and I know St. Edmunds does as well. But there's a certain momentum to these things. If there isn't pushback, it'll just keep rolling through the state. And I'm to say the least, I'm not in favor of that, and I know many others aren't as well. Governor Branstad, again, and I've met Governor Branstad many times over the years and talked with him on the air, and he's always very accessible. In fact, you had him in here a couple of weeks ago after the Floyd Rosedale thing. But I'm bringing Governor Branstad up because he was one who pounded on the teachers union and the public employees union. He was always at war with them. And the public employees, somehow, a man of my background, knows a lot of public employees, professional class public employees, and they really thought Terry Branstad was the evil one.
Right. I have friends the same way.
Yeah. But I would think that the Republicans are in a good position to say to the Democrats and the teachers union, you knock this off, or we're going to make a real fight out of your annual insistence on a tax or on a pay raise for teachers.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, again, that whole thing, it's a big dilemma right now because a lot of teachers are looking at retiring, and they're having trouble finding people that want to come in and teach with the COVID environment and all those types of regulations. So, you have to be careful with what you preach for, because we may end up harming education. At the end of the day, we want good teachers in the classroom and pay them well. But I think with the pension reform and collective bargaining reform, I think those tools now are in place for school boards to be able to compensate teachers to the level they need to keep them employed and staying in the school classroom. So all those things are kind of a work in progress right now, and we'll see how it all unfolds.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Yeah, nobody wants to see education get hurt. We need our children and grandchildren educated. Don't you have a daughter that's a school teacher?
Well, she was a school teacher, first grade teacher at Butler School here, and then in the middle of the pandemic, she got offered a job to work for a private education consulting firm that allowed her to work remotely from home.
Oh, really?
And it's called the Teaching Lab, and so she's helping. She's got a state of New Mexico as her assigned, client. So she's helping teachers in New Mexico learn, better skills to teach in the new 21st century. So she's still very involved with education, but now as a consultant, and we're very proud of her. And I know the Fort Dodge schools enjoyed having her there, but she's found another niche for herself and her family. So I think it's going to be good. At the end of the day, she's still in education.
Southern states, to their credit, have realized that they have a problem with elementary education in their states. It's substandard, frankly, in a lot of the states. I know in the 80s and 90s, a lot of states like Texas, especially Texas, came up here recruiting young people who were going to be teachers to come to their state and offering much more money because they really wanted to improve the quality of education. Tennessee did as well. I used to work in North Carolina at a rock radio station out there a long time ago in the 1980s. And a school teacher from up in the hills called me and asked if she could bring some of her fifth graders into the studio because they'd never seen a radio station. When they came there, and they were all adorable 9 and 10-year-old kids, very excited, full of questions, that sort of thing. But they had some of them, because of where they lived in the hills or down the hollers or whatever, had never seen television and had only rarely heard radio. So this is a big country.
Yeah.
This is a big country. And I know Tennessee and the Carolinas were also states that came to the Midwest, especially Iowa, and trying to recruit teachers. And in a lot of cases, they were successful. And I'm sure their states and towns benefited from having those young Iowa teachers there.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what my daughter's learning is that other states are farther behind than Iowa, and they're looking to use people like herself and others around the country to help them jumpstart their curriculum and teaching skills.
I guess I was just astonished, and I felt sorry for the kids, even though they didn't, again, they were typical kids. They seemed happy-go-lucky kids, but felt a little sorry for him. I think, God, you're so far away from the modern world. But I guess that's the way their parents wanted to live, and that was just the way that was.
Yeah.
So Jim Kirsten is our guest. This is AM 1400, KBFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. What is happening at the legislative level as far as Iowa Central Community College is concerned, and community colleges in general?
Sure. Well, the governor introduced her state budget last week, which allowed for I think it's about a 2.5% increase for. Actually, she gave a 2.5 or recommended a 2.5% increase for K-12 community colleges in the regions. Just with our own fixed costs that we're projecting for this year with inflation and utility cost increase, we need about a 7% increase just to break even. So we're going to be working with the legislature as it unfolds with this budget process to try to convince them to appropriate some more money so we can be there ready to train the people that hopefully will be coming out of our classrooms ready to fill the jobs that are out there. So we look forward to working with both the governor and the legislature. And at the end of the day, I think our legislators understand the importance of not only K-12 but our community colleges.
Oh gosh, yeah, we gotta have that. In Iowa, we still work with our hands. We
Yep.
still do. And Jack Kibbe, I guess I haven't heard anything about Jack Kibbe. Please tell me he's still with us. Do you know one way
Yep,
or the other?
he's retired, and I don't know if he goes down to Arizona in the wintertime anymore or Florida, but I know he had in the past. But they're up there at Emmitsburg, and I haven't talked to him for maybe a year, but I understand he's doing well, and his wife Kay.
Yeah,
So they're really good people.
Kay is my first cousin.
Oh, she is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, really good people.
Yeah, they are, and they've been happy together for many years, and that's great. Kay's older than I am, so I never got to know her very well, but I know her
Right.
family, the McNallys from Emmitsburg, and they're great people. Yeah,
Well, it's fun. It was fun because I was a young member of the Senate, and Jack had been there earlier in his life, and then when his family started to grow, he decided to get out. And then the year I got elected, he got back in as well. So he and I really worked closely together, and he was a good mentor. Even though he's a Democrat, we worked really well together, and I just wish we had more of that across the aisles.
well, there
We just
wasn't
don't have that today.
there wasn't a gang fight down in our legislature or Washington D.C. every time we turned around.
No.
President
No.
Biden came in talking about unity and restoring the soul of America. I wish he'd do it.
I know. Well, we need it.
Oh, we
And
do,
Our
terribly.
country suffers because of the lack of cooperation and willingness to compromise.
Or even
And,
friendliness between the two groups, for crying out loud.
Right. The federal government doesn't even have its federal budget passed for last year, and they keep using the continuing resolution, and that runs out February 18th, and let alone even thinking about next year's budget. So it's all caught up in the Biden, big Build Better Back, and they don't have the votes, and so they just keep delaying it. So we need them to start governing and move on, and I hope that they do that.
Well, they're not going to have it after 2022. I feel very confident in saying that because I think the Republican Party will make big gains and certainly take back the Senate and perhaps the House. I don't know.
Well, I just saw, and I'll try to send you the link. There's a new Gallup poll that came out that showed there's been a dramatic shift from the Democrat strong majority of support to now Republican because of the gridlock, I think. But it cycles back and forth. We just need leadership on both sides of the aisle to get together and actually govern for the country's benefit, not their own personal.
Oh yeah, and that's what's this is just about the parties and I hope the people of the United States come together and
Right.
say we're tired of this. This is supposed to be of and by and for the people, not you guys.
Right, and that's kind of the frustration that's out there. And so I think it'll be interesting next fall to see what kind of a turnout happens, and then how much of a turnaround it might be for both the Republicans and Democrats. Positive for Republicans and negative for the Democrats.
Yeah, and the Republicans then have to deliver. Biden hasn't, so it will be incumbent on the Republican Party to deliver and point out that I think it may seem hypocritical for me to say this, but without unnecessary partisan bickering. Joe Biden mistook his mandate. I think he thought he was elected because everybody wanted Joe Biden, and really nobody did. He was kind of the compromise nominee, and he beat Trump. Trump had his problems.
Yeah, and then he was elected, right? And so now that he was elected, I thought he was going to bring people together, but so far it hasn't worked.
And I thought he might be the guy to do it. He'd been around forever, a veteran politician. Certainly, God, I think he's been in public office off and on for 50 years.
Yeah, I think I
So-
saw Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, said this is not the Joe Biden I remember.
I
You know?
had Senator Grassley on a couple of weeks ago, and he said the same thing. He said he'd known Joe Biden a long time. He could work with him, but this guy, he didn't know, and
Right.
that's unfortunate. Whatever reasons there may be for that, but so have the attendance numbers out at Iowa Central been up, or?
Well, we were up 9% last year. We haven't got the final figures. We just started back up last week, so we usually wait 2 weeks until we announce what our enrollment is. But at least stable, if not, hopefully a little bit more.
Okay, good enough. Anything we're missing here, Jim?
Nope, just I'll be on next week if you want me back. So thank you.
Yeah, 3:40. Let's kind of mark it down, and if
Yep.
you want. All right, thank you very much, Jim.
Bye bye.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. This program, of course, brought to you by Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters at 612 South 32nd Street here in Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Waters by calling 576-6481 or online at www